Seems to be one of those age-old questions here on BookTube. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark, and I hope you're all doing very well indeed. What is the age-old question, you might be thinking? Well, it's whether or not you can read more than one book at one time. Is that right? Well, obviously you can't read more than one book at the same time you're trying to read one book. I don't think you can really go like this. Maybe, unless you're Steve Donahue, perhaps. But can you read more than one book at once? Well, yes and no. And this video comes about through my friend Summer from Sterling Reads. She recently put up a video called What I'm Reading and Changing the Way I Read. Now, I've known Summer a good few years, and I've done numerous buddy reads with her. And I know she is somebody who used to at least try to tackle more than one book at one time and have, maybe 3 or 4 on the go. Now, for some people that's fine. For other people, that's a problem. Now, for her, it seems to be a problem at the moment, and she's changing the way she reads, where she wants to just focus on one book at one time. Something I often think about doing myself. But it did get me thinking about, whether or not you can juggle more than one book at once and whether it's good or not to do so. Personally, I don't really see an issue with it. I see a lot of people have said things like that they can't do it. Well, I think to me, it's a similar situation as if you're watching television of an evening. So remember the good old days when we didn't have streaming services and you didn't binge watch an entire series at once. Instead, you would sit down in front of the television, and at 8 o'clock this program would be on, at 9 o'clock that show would be on, at 10 o'clock this other series would be on, or whatever. Now, you could find yourself watching different series at once, so to speak. So you might watch, you might have watched episode 7 of The Sopranos, followed by, a double bill of Seinfeld, followed by maybe, season 3 of something else, right? And you didn't get confused, generally, I don't think, between what was going on with the different stories. And I think the same can be said when it comes to how we read. I suppose as long as we're not reading things that are quite similar, then we should be able to juggle more than one book at one time and just take it in different parts, as we would if we were watching different series and serials on television. So I started thinking about what you, my viewers, thought about this, and whether you are people who do juggle more than one book at once, or you prefer to just read one book, finish it, and then move on to the next one. And is there something to be said? I mean, do you actually save time by trying to read more than one book at one time? Or do you actually end up losing time and you're better off concentrating on just reading one thing and putting that aside and getting it finished? Now, I find that probably it's better for me if I did just concentrate on one book at one time, but it also depends on what the book is. And sometimes, even though I like books a lot, and I might like the book I'm reading a lot, I still might get a bit bored of it, or something is calling from me from the bookshelf that I may want to pick up because, the age-old curse of letting your mood dictate your reading habits is something that I definitely suffer from. So I may lose attention in one book and not have the will to get it finished. Whereas if I pick up something else, that also might help me to finish the original book that I was reading as well. Because, if I say to myself, I'm going to read a chapter of this and a chapter of that, personally, it's not something where it causes confusion for me. Unless, as I say, they're very, very similar, right? If they're very similar in topic, it might happen. You might not remember which book you read this specific thing in or not. So I don't see it as being an issue. I tend to have generally a novel, so a work of fiction, a work of non-fiction, and possibly an audiobook going at once. And I do think for me there is a maximum. I don't think I can do much more than 3 things at once. If I read 3 things at once at the same time, then I may start to struggle a little bit. And as I said, it helps for me to keep them separated in that kind of form. So a fiction, a non-fiction, and an audiobook is manageable, at least for me. Now, for some of you, that might not be manageable. For some of you, that's way too easy, and you might have 5 or 6 different books going on at once. If you do, congratulations. But I'm curious as to if you are someone like that, whether you think you benefit from that, or you would be better off just focusing on one thing and getting it finished, or you believe that having more than one thing on the go is more productive. I'm very, very curious and interested to know what you guys think about it and what your own habits are, your own reading habits are when it comes to that. Whether you juggle multiple books or whether you focus on a sole book and stick to it until you finish it before you pick up your next read. That's all I want to know. I want to know from you, I want to hear from you, and I want to see your wonderful comments down below as to what your particular reading habits are when it comes to this age-old question. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. Do take care, and I'll see you all very soon indeed. Bye for now.